Western Mass News Back to School, sponsored by Plato's Closet West Springfield, the Long Meadow Shops, and Greenfield Cooperative Bank.
Your cell phone is almost always in your hands or in your pocket, but soon students across the Bay State will likely have to put them away for the entire school day.
Our back to school coverage continues after new state legislation would ban cell phone usage in schools from the first bell to the last.
While lawmakers iron out their bill's differences before it then heads to the governor's desk, Western Mass News reporter Madison Lasowski explains what this would really mean for students, parents, and teachers.
The Massachusetts House and Senate have both passed a sweeping cell phone ban, and if signed into law, it would reshape the entire school day. Senate Bill 2581 and House Bill 5366 make it clear that the ban is bell to bell. That means that any personal devices, from smartphones to tablets to gaming devices, are completely off limits from the moment students arrive until the dismissal bell rings. Now, this includes class time, hallway transitional periods, even lunchtime. That's something we addressed with Northampton Public Schools when they announced their own policy back in June.
Inaccessible bell-to-bell policy, so that means that during the school day, students' cell phones will be somewhere where they cannot access.
Should the bills become law, we want to know, how will districts actually enforce this? Now, the proposed legislation outlines three main pathways. First, schools can mandate secure storage bags like magnetized pouches, or they can use geofencing technology to render phones inoperable on school grounds. Lastly, they're able to submit alternative plans to the state for approval. Now, the bill carves out some critical exceptions as well. Students with special needs and documented medical issues, such as monitoring blood sugar, are exempt. Multilingual translation needs are also exempt. Now, the bill also requires a guarantee that parents and students are able to reach each other in case of an emergency. The bill lifts the burden of policing phones from teachers and puts the enforcement in the hands of administrators. If students don't comply, districts must enforce consequences to the Code of Conduct, and those policies will have to be submitted to the state every year by September 1st. While the goal was for this to become law going into the upcoming school year, disagreements between the House and Senate could delay that from happening. The House is trying to link school restrictions with social media age limits, which was not a part of the Senate's bill. However, several Western Mass districts already have their own cell phone bans in place. This includes Chicopee, Holyoke, Greenfield, Northampton, Springfield, West Springfield, and the Pioneer Valley Regional School District. We'll be sure to stay on top of the state legislation and share the latest developments as they happen. Reporting for Western Mass News, I'm Madison Lasowski.